the month of November, I've been reading Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Anna Karenina is one of those novels that if you really consider yourself a well-read person, you will have to read that at some point. It is 800 pages. I said I would read 25 pages a day. I could read the whole book in 32 days. And it was so good that I finished much earlier than that. 25 pages a day wasn't enough for me because it was too good. It's an excellent novel. You know, people may say, oh, well, it's boring, it's old, it's fusty. It wouldn't have stood the test of time if it was truly that way. Like, there is a reason why people read it year after year after year. There's a reason why I can read it today and enjoy it as much as I did. So it begins with Oblonsky. Oblonsky wakes up on his couch in his study because his wife is angry at him because he's been having an affair. Now, Oblonsky is one of the most central characters in the entire novel because he is friends with everybody. He knows everybody, and he's a happy-go-lucky, charming figure, if not a bit rakish, a bit dissolute, but everyone he meets is always happy to see him because he's just so utterly charming. So he appears constantly throughout the novel. And what he does is he doesn't know how he's going to fix it up with his wife, and he's afraid that she will leave him and take the children, and he'll be left on his own. So he calls his sister, the eponymous Anna Karenina, to come to try to mollify his wife, her sister-in-law. Anna Karenina, and they're back and forth, like they're in Moscow or they're in Petersburg. They're in Petersburg, they're in Moscow, Moscow, Petersburg, or they're in the countryside, and they're in the countryside quite a lot, and the countryside is just always countryside, and please don't ask me what it's called because I have no idea, it's just always the countryside. Anna Karenina comes to her brother's aid to try to pacify her sister-in-law. And while she's on the train, she is sitting with the mother of this very dashing, handsome soldier named Vronsky. But Anna Karenina is not single. Anna Karenina is married to her husband, Karenina, and she has a son who she adores. Yes, okay. Now where do we go from there? Aha. Now we have another character, Kitty. Who is Kitty? Kitty is the sister of Oblonsky's wife. Oblonsky's wife is Dolly. Dolly's sister is Kitty. Kitty has two suitors who would like to marry her. One of them is Vronsky, dashing, handsome soldier, just a manly man, brave, courageous, real man. The other one is Levin. Levin is a bit of a intellectual from the countryside. He has a huge farm, and he has a lot of peasants who are working for him, and he's always trying to think of ways to make the farm more profitable, make the peasants' life more easy and advantageous for them. And he's just full of these ideas. He's a very hard person to be with because he's a bit standoffish. He's doesn't really like to be in society too much. He's a guy from the countryside, and he gets kind of upset in the city life, and he's not someone that people really enjoy being around very much. Levin proposes to Kitty. Kitty refuses him because she thinks that Vronsky is going to propose to her. She's sure of it. Levin is crushed and goes back to the countryside. Kitty and Vronsky go to a dance where she feels that he will be soon proposing to her. However, at the dance, Anna Karenina and Vronsky seem to just make this connection. They fall in love. Maybe not at the dance, but at the dance something happens. There are sparks.
Oh, but you must tonight.
Well, but if it's impossible not to dance, let us dance then. Well?
I'm coming.
Nothing.
Vronsky completely ignores Kitty for the rest of the novel. And Vronsky falls madly, passionately in love, obsessed with Anna Karenina, even though she's married. Kitty is crushed. Her soldiers run off to chase a married woman. She refused this man who's gone back to the countryside, so she's left on her own. All of these characters are just, there's a lot of characters, and the edition I have has a list of characters at the beginning, so whenever I see a name that I'm not from, I can always turn to the front and say, oh yeah, okay, all right, you know, this is an important one, or this, okay, this is just the gardener. There are a lot of characters, but don't let that trouble you too much. You don't need to pay attention to all of them. Just the ones I mentioned. Oblonsky, bit of a womanizer, bit of a ne'er-do-well, but lovable. His wife, Dolly, angry at him. Dolly has a sister, Kitty, who's hoping to be married. At first, she is dismayed not to be. Oblonsky has a sister, Anna Karenina, who's married to Karenina, who inadvertently inspires the loving obsession of Vronsky. Vronsky is this dashing soldier. There you go. There are the principal, and Levin. Levin is crucial. Levin is really the main central character of the entire novel. Yeah, but it wouldn't be such a great book if it was called Levin. Now, what else? Well, it is extremely exciting. It is very, very, very exciting. And I'll just leave it there. That is enough to get you interested and get you excited in reading Anna Karenina. I think that is really enough. And I don't need to tell you what happens between Anna and Vronsky. But something happens. And I don't need to tell you what happens between Anna and her husband, but something happens. Or what happens to Kitty. Kitty's story is also really very enjoyable. And Levin is, well, even though in literature he's a character which is hard to really enjoy, as a reader too, it's kind of hard to enjoy reading about this man because he's I don't know, he's just one of those kind of obsessive people who they enjoy their own obsession so much it makes them very unlovable. What did I think about this book? I loved it. It was such a monster, 800 pages. There's always this moment where it's like, okay, am I really doing this? And by the time I get to page 50, I think, okay, all right, I'm doing it. I'm 50 pages in. I've got a toehold. I'm doing it. And I committed myself. And yeah, it's very, very good. It's really good. However, a year ago, I mentioned that I wanted to read Anna Karenina. And somebody made a comment in one of my videos that said, once you get midway, the second half of the book just flies along. That is not true in my case. And I don't think that is true in any regard. Perhaps he was thinking about another book. For me, the first half of the book was the most exciting. Like the first 500 pages are incredible. There's this horse race where Vronsky is going to ride his horse, and it's really quite a challenge. And you know, everybody's watching. Everybody in Moscow was there, and they're watching, oh, Vronsky and the other competitors, the other horses. Like, it is magnificent writing. It is just edge of your seat stuff. And then what happens with Vronsky and Anna Karenina and her husband, Karenina? That is incredible. But, so the book is divided up between Volume 1 and Volume 2. And Volume 1 is parts 1 to 4, and Volume 2 is parts 5 to 8. Volume 1 and Volume 2, right? Pretty much 50-50. I feel that Tolstoy wrote all of the best stuff in this part of the book. And then when he got to this part, he said to himself, well, Leo, there's not that much left for part 2. Like really, there's only about 200 pages left for part 2, but the book's gonna look pretty weird if it's like book 1 and book 2 and it looks like that. Book 2 is full of a lot of really boring, to my mind, unnecessary stuff. Like quite a lot of book 2 is dealing with this election that takes place in the countryside. Levin is there, several other people are there, Vronsky is there, Oblonsky is there, and they're all very much concerned with what is happening in the countryside. And maybe it has something to do with Russian politics as they were changing at that period of history, but it was boring as shit, and I felt it really took away from the main idea of this book. The main idea is about these relations between these families, not about elections in some provincial farmland. I didn't give a shit about that, and I didn't care about all of these new characters that are being introduced. Oh, he is a warden of this district, and this one is, a so-and-so of that region, and these are the peasants who are being represented by... Can we get back to the crushing love story that's happening over there, please? I feel that Tolstoy put all of the best and most exciting stuff into the first part. He wrote 450 pages. I feel he had to pad the second half of the book with a lot of extra stuff so that it would look balanced, so that it wouldn't be a big first half and a small second half. After the very final, critical, important thing that happens at the end of the novel, there's still 50 pages left. Like, there's still that much left after the climax. And you think, well, okay, all right, 50 pages is a lot, but out of an 800-page novel, it's not that much. What could it be? I imagine it's going to be a resolution as to what happens to all of these characters. What happens to Kitty? What happens to Oblonsky and Dolly? Will they get divorced? What is she going to do? Because they're running out of money, they have financial problems. What will happen there? What is going to happen to Karenina? The last 50 pages are almost entirely given to Levin's religious dilemma. Does he believe in God? The last 50 pages of the book, after all of that and the very heartrending climax of the book, which is a tragedy. This man, a farmer whose new hobby is raising bees, wondering if he believes in God. For the last 50 pages. I enjoyed Anna Karenina very much. I didn't have too much trouble with the length because, as I've said in the past, the key to writing a very long novel is to write a very long novel with very short chapters. 4 pages per chapter. Read a chapter a day, and you've got it. It might take you 4 months, but you've got it. Do you know the story of Oprah Winfrey and Anna Karenina? Oprah Winfrey is remarkably well read. I believe that something very traumatic happened in her life, and she ended up living with her very strict uncle who demanded that she read 1 book or 3 books a week. You have to read, and I will expect reports on these books. And went on to become a very popular television hostess. And she started her very famous Oprah Winfrey Book Club. She was dissatisfied with the state of modern literature, and so she went through a period of only recommending old classics. The publishing companies begged her, probably enticed her in some perhaps financial way, to please start recommending modern writers because it's better for our sales if you can interview these people. I think the most famous books Oprah Winfrey ever recommended was that she very strongly recommended Anna Karenina. And that has always put a smile on my face. This woman who has this extreme influential power over American people, mainly American women, telling them to read this old Russian novel. I wonder how many did. Probably a lot of them did. Oprah Winfrey and Grant Shipway encourage you to read Anna Karenina because it is worth it. I'm sorry about the second half. You're just going to have to bear it. Hopefully, the greatness of the first half of the novel will carry you through the finish of the second half. I have to say I was very disappointed with the last 50 pages. Like to have all like this roller coaster of emotions and characters, and it's a very emotional book. Highs and lows and this very strong Russian character. To come down to this man wondering about his Christianity is a bit, well, I don't know a thing about Tolstoy. And have I even read any other Tolstoy? Just those short stories, The Death of Ivan Ilyich. Will I read War and Peace? I will one day, because again, it's on the list. If you want to be considered literary, you've got to read War and Peace, right? I will. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Grant Loves Books. Please, if you can help support the channel in some way by subscribing or telling your friends on Facebook that I'm making videos.